I genuinely believe that everyone has the ability to connect with the other side. It's my knowing that our truth is that we are ultimately spirit. It is who we are.
There is a realm of beings who are also emanations of pure consciousness, which is love, and their reality exists to assist us here.
Angels were, and some ascended masters definitely were in my life, in my early years. I saw all kinds of beings around me.
Even if you don't believe in an invisible posse on any level, that today's your day where you start believing it's a possibility.
When you think there's a problem right away, that means you're in human mode, because the soul knows all is in perfect order. So it's like an instant indicator, oh, I need to just shift my perspective. This life is one big test. We come here knowing that things will not always go the way we want them to. And the test is, how are you going to respond to every challenge that comes up? And the choice is always with love or fear. So are you going to respond with peace and knowing that all is in perfect order? If I just slow down, take a deep breath, the way to deal with this will come into my awareness from that higher level. Or am I going to stay in human mode, fight it, not allow things to go wrong, and have chaos? Because the guidance I got just in the last 2 days for myself in meditation was that when somebody around me expresses anger or any emotion that I know is not in alignment with the soul, until yesterday, there's a part of me that intellectually knows, okay, everybody's allowed to have their own feelings, but emotionally I feel that, and at a deeper level than even intellectually, part of me goes, no, we have to be responding with love. But that's the human side of me. So that quickening is just an attention getter and a chance, when slowing down, to breathe and say, isn't that interesting? So the emotions, the feelings that in the past I might have said, oh, this shouldn't be happening, or, oh, that person shouldn't be angry, is actually an opportunity to say just simply, isn't that interesting that I'm feeling these emotions and something inside me says I shouldn't be feeling them, when they just are flowing right through me. You acknowledge them, you allow them. By saying, isn't that interesting, you go to neutral, and now you can respond from the higher level and not the robotic player responses that we're all so used to making. It gives you this moment of neutrality and pause. And now, just because you took that pause, you are aware and you're acting consciously. I call it the lucid zone. I'm now able to make choices from a higher place. Even, like you said, check in, ask my guides, is there a better way? What's the best thing for me to do right now? We have all the information we need coming at us right here from the higher levels. It's stunning how much you can discern. It's the human that says, I have to watch the news, I have to be informed. Hey, I taught political science at the Naval Academy, and some things never change. So I check the headlines, I see that the world is still here, I see what's going on, and then I unplug. And I get the insights from higher consciousness, and ooh, it's peaceful. We are souls here and now. This is what we've been talking about, the higher self, the soul. The part that's really running the show down here at this level. We are the humans that enact that scenario. And the method you're talking about of connecting, it's actually Bless Me, a 7-step acronym where each letter stands for a step in the process of attuning to higher consciousness. So, real short version of that is it entails B, breathe, 3 nice, slow belly breaths to slow down everything. L is whatever it takes to lift your vibration, and the fastest way is gratitude. Just sit quietly and think about what you have to be thankful for. That lifts your vibration. E is taking a nice deep breath, and on the E, expanding breath, You expand your energy field out until you're in your now limitless state. And then the S, the first one, stands for surrender your story. I'm no longer Suzanne acting out a story here. I'm just being this awareness, this aware state, my pure state of being. The second S stands for shift. Shift to being aware now of, in this state of awareness, what is coming into awareness. M is merge with any information or beings that you become aware of now that you've shifted. And E is experience whatever's meant to happen right now in this expanded state. Ideally, you'd run through that in about 5 minutes and then stay in the expanded state as long as you want, because that 5 minutes of preparatory stages, BLESSM, slows everything down and you just slip into that state. Do it often enough and boom, you just connect. I want to tune into someone in the spirit world. This body gets in the way. So I've surrendered my focus on my whole physical body. I know I'm an energetic field of vibration, of consciousness. Any other soul I want to tap into, whether in the spirit world or in the physical world, is also an energetic field. So merge simply means I am using intention to join our fields and become aware of any information from that apparently separate other field that will serve the greater good. So it's like at a museum, if you walk into a museum and you find one of those dioramas and you push the button and all the lights light up to the spot you want to go to. With intention, you just say, let's merge and become one field, and you just light up a connection to that field and instantly you're connected. The prerequisite for connecting is understanding you are a soul. So the basic practice is to, if you want to use a system like the Bless Me method, just spend time in that state of pure being, because from that state, anything is possible. But if you don't know what that feels like, then the connection may or may not happen. We are not stuck in this reality that we can find peace instantly by shifting our viewpoint. How many people think they're alone as they're cloistered in their seclusion? How many people are suffering because they don't realize they are both human and souls? That's what's going on in my mind. How can I share with more people the tools, the awareness that we can shift our point of view and find peace? But even more importantly right now, it's how many people are only focusing on the negative and butting heads with other people. That's the human way to protect yourself. You focus on the negative when we need to see where we have things in common, where we can be grateful for things. That would just shift the whole dynamic we're experiencing now. We get into the lucid zone. I've found, and I'm teaching this now, 3 steps are really good. And the lucid zone, I draw a heart, because the heart is where we join our higher self with the human side. So it's the integration point here. And when you talk about heartbeats, we talk about beats per minute, BPM. Mm-hmm. So this is another acronym. Breathe. When you notice you're off balance, just take one nice deep breath in which the exhale is longer than the inhale, and you'll immediately drop into a nice alpha brainwave state, much more aware now. It feels so good. Then P, and this is really different, and most people don't know this one, is change your posture. What do you like when you're rushing around the house? Like this. But if you want to be open to spirit, put the shoulders back, open your heart area, and now you're walking with purpose. What point does that make? It reminds you to be mindful of what? Everything going around you, but not just in the physical reality. What insights are now available to you from guides, from loved ones across the veil, because you took the time to pause and breathe, shift your posture, slow down as you cross the room and say, Should I really be going to do this right now, or is there something better I could be doing with my time? You can walk around in the lucid zone, shoulders back, in flowing awareness. You see how I'm just kind of tuning into all the senses, physical and soul senses at the same time. That's a practice. It takes training, but all you have to do is set the intention. I'm going to be aware when I'm tight, when I'm rushing, when I'm not in the lucid zone. And I don't have it on now because I don't need it anymore. But I used to wear a cheap little ring on my little finger, or a little wristband, little rubber wristband. And I changed, I changed the ring from hand to hand or the wristband from arm to arm, because if you wear a ring long enough, you don't notice it anymore. But when it's new on your hand, it snags your attention. And when that happens, you go, oh, that's my reminder. Have I checked in with spirit? Have I taken that deep breath? Am I in the lucid zone now? And then you switch it to the other hand. You can also just find an app like Remindfulness, one that just rings every so often. And when it does, am I in the lucid zone or have I dropped out? By practicing being in the lucid zone, because that's what you're doing. You've stepped out of the drama, and when you are conscious, lucid, integrating information coming from your own higher self with your human self, you see things differently. You don't take things quite so seriously. Now, things here do get serious, but we don't get sucked into the drama. You realize that we are method actors who are so doing our job so well of acting out our stories that sometimes we forget that. So by being in the lucid zone, you suddenly take on the role of stage manager. You can still be acting at the same time that you're stage manager. Which role is going to suit you better? Because I've had conversations with Source, and says that if you picture the sky and everything that passes through it are the clouds, the temporary happenings. Source is the sky. All that arises in awareness are the temporary happenings, including us. The clouds don't harm the sky. Source is not affected by anything that happens here. We're condensed versions of that. So yes, at the human level, we are affected by what happens here. But when we step outside of that and know that we are this higher self at various levels, our personal soul, but that is a direct emanation of the field of consciousness, then it just takes away the fear. There's no fear of death when you communicate with those who've passed all the time, because you know there is no death. I don't want my loved ones to suffer if I leave here, but I can't control that. And I know that ultimately these lead to growth. These passings, these tragedies lead to growth for all of us. So how do I deal with the world? I accept it. If there's action I can take, I take it. If not, I trust that all is in perfect order. Ooh, I wish people could live that way. There is a realm of beings who are also emanations of pure consciousness, which is love, and their reality exists to assist us here. So sometimes they'll just show up as light. They pull some strings and know what we need and watch out for us. They don't always step in if we need to learn a lesson, but if it will help our soul's growth, they're there. If we ask for help, they'll give it as needed, just like a little baby that says, please pick me up. The parents are not going to leave them to suffer. So there are absolutely intelligent, creative, loving beings who are here to help us if we'll just ask. There are no best or betters or shoulds or have tos. It does work to stay in human mode and do beseeching prayer. Oh, do I have an example of that? Please, if you want to hear it.
Yes.
But help me remember to get back to the other kind of prayer.
Not a problem.
This woman who I did not know filled out a form when I had one on my website for doing readings. I now don't take the form because my list was way too long. But she provided a phone number and an email and asked for a reading. I didn't know why. So I wrote back and I said, I'm sorry, my waiting list is just so long. I'm not sure you want to wait. And she wrote back and said, please just put me on the list. And that was the last I heard from her. Later that day, I was having dinner, visited my mom in assisted living with my husband. We're in the big dining room, people all around. I'm mid-bite. And I went to my husband, I said, Ty, I have to go call this woman who emailed me today. This has never happened. Mid-bite. It wasn't like I'll wait till the end of the meal. I set down my fork, left the dining room, and called her. Little did I know on the other end, when she heard from me that maybe I'll put her on the list, but it's a long wait, she took a picture of her son who had passed. She looked at it and she said, Universe, we want Suzanne to give us that reading so I can connect with my son. Then she walked into her bedroom, found her husband, said, take my hands. We're going to pray. And she sat down and she said, please, may we have a reading with Suzanne Giesemann. Just then, the phone rings. She looks down. She turns it to her husband. He almost falls off the bed because it's me. She picks it up and I said, hello, Colleen. This is Suzanne Giesemann. I'm supposed to offer you a reading. See, that's a setup. And that started even before she prayed, but she got her prayer answered on the spot. I have to tell everybody I am not doing readings new from the list now, so please don't everybody start praying. I do have wonderful people to refer people to. In fact, that woman is now a medium, and she's one that I refer people to, but I didn't know her at the time. Is that fantastic? So that's beseeching prayer. The other kind is affirmative prayer, and that comes from the awareness that I am a soul. Once you really know that and that we are intimately connected to the field of miracles, to Source, you just affirm all is in perfect order. And if it serves the greater good that this or this or this happened, then may it be so. You see? That's a whole different ballgame than I am powerless. I'm asking for something to happen.
I genuinely believe that everyone has the ability to connect with the other side. And you know, it's my knowing that our truth is that we are ultimately spirit. It is who we are. We're having this human experience, but I believe that if we can remember and fully embody the knowing that we are made of spirit, then we can connect with all levels of intelligence on a spiritual level. So it's our divine right to actually connect with the divine. It's because it's who we are, and it's also what we're connected to, and it's also what surrounds us. So the angels are just ultimately, in my eyes, an expression of the divine, and they're just waiting for us to open up to them. The idea of connecting with angels has been around, you know, for millennia, and angels have appeared in the four corners of the world with different names and different faces. Yeah. You know, in every spiritual tradition, there is a similar concept and idea with regards to a divine being that is not actually God itself or the creator itself, but an extension of it. And so the idea has kind of been there this whole time. And I would say the last 20 years especially, people have really delved deep into connection, spiritual practice, discovering the truth of who we are, why we're here. And in some ways, either to prepare us or to protect us in these challenging times. You know, I genuinely believe that if you are walking the spiritual path and you've been connected to angels for maybe 4, 5, 10 years or whatever, the reason is that somewhere inside of you, you knew that times were changing and you needed to be prepared. And it's like now, this knowing that these divine beings are there and all the people have been doing the work to tell the world about them, it's kind of like this spiritual first aid kit that's here to kind of help us stay well, stay protected, stay aligned so that we know what we can do from here. I would say that a lot of people feel a natural fluctuation of the energy that surrounds them when they call upon the angels. Sometimes that can express itself in a way that feels like a hot flash. It can feel like someone's tickling your neck, like that. I get that, you know, when you go, ooh, or you know what you call goosebumps. So yeah, I think that's a really natural way to express that. And the thing is that a lot of people go, that seems far out, but it doesn't. It genuinely doesn't, because all of us know what it's like to walk into an office one day and be met by a stink of an energy, like a vibration that, someone's just having a really bad day today, and it's like the air is as thick as cheese and you can slice it, it's like super heavy. But we also know what it's like to walk into a space where we're infected by goodness, where people are laughing or smiling and feeling good. Like, if you're on the train and someone starts laughing, you'll laugh with them. There's an infectiousness to that. And that's what energy is. And so the angels are energy themselves, and their energy is in some way infectious. And that's what creates these shifts and these changes which cause physical experience. If you've spent a lifetime ignoring the voice of your own intelligence.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about that for a second. The voice that says to you, don't order the large fries today, or the voice that says, if you eat this, you're going to be sick, or, if you say yes to hanging out with this person, you're going to feel drained. Mm-hmm. If we've ignored that voice for a long time, we have to get reacquainted with it first. Because how in the world can we hear an angel if we've ignored our own self? Like, that's the truth. So feeling angels and beginning to experience them is far much more easy to obtain than hearing them at first. And the best way to experience your angel is just by inviting them into your life. The angels are honoring free will at all times, unless it's a life or death situation and there has been an intention for a greater purpose of your life that has not yet been met. So the angels can't come into your world or help you unless you invite them. And so the best way to do so is to thank them as if they're already here. I learned that the angels exist in the present tense, not in the past or the future. And a lot of us say prayer in the format that the future is going to bring us the answer, rather than step into this present moment and affirm that what we're looking for is already here. So my favorite way to welcome the angels into your life is through this prayer. Mm-hmm. Thank you, angels, for reminding me of your presence. And that prayer can open up a whole host of channels of experience. It could lead to the angel bumps. It can lead to the feeling of another presence in the room, but also can lead to the experience of signs. For example, finding a feather in the most obscure place, or hearing the word angel in regular conversation popping up time and time again, or turning on, the radio in the car one day and it feels like the angels are singing to you an answer to a prayer. The angels love to prove they're real. They love to share their existence with us. But instead of asking them from a place of, angels, prove you are real to me, but more from a place of, thank you for reminding me of your presence. You're affirming that they're already here, that you already believe, and that you're willing to have an experience. It's not that we can't experience their help, but we just might not be as aware of it. You see, and I think that's a really important thing, is that the angels can genuinely help us in the most challenging, most uncertain times. There's no doubt. But us having the experience of them might be different. So I just want to get that clear, because I've heard from hundreds and thousands of people, who experience angels at the most craziest, most challenging moments of their life. So the angels can help us in those moments. But having your own experience is always much more effective when you're in alignment, is the best way to do it. When you're less dialed into experience seeking and genuinely wanting to know that you're connected to something higher. And I think that, a lot of us on the spiritual path, let's be honest here, are experience seekers rather than truth seekers. I think sometimes you start off as an experience seeker, and then eventually somewhere along the line or along the way, you recenter yourself to more wanting to live from a more integral, more aligned state. The angels really gave me more confidence, and learning to be able to protect myself from lower vibrations really helped shift me. And I used to walk home with anxiety every single day because I grew up in a pretty rough end. I come from it's like a crazy, the most, I don't even know the word for it, underprivileged town in the whole of Scotland, and it's got the lowest, exam results in the country. It's got the highest violence in the country, the most drug rates, it's the one.
It makes sense that you would come from there. It actually makes sense. Bring us light where there is darkness. Hello, Kyle Gray.
Well, yeah. But it was funny because there's obviously so much lovely things there too, and it's got like the greatest views. It's a shipbuilding town, but there was also a lot of darkness, and I just lived in fear for a long time. There was a lot of gang culture where I was growing up, and people being stabbed and chased and all these different things. So learning about these angels and the fact that they could create this spiritual force field that would protect my physical body just became something that I clung to. And I think that really helped me develop a greater trust in them, is that as soon as I started to visualize myself in this bubble of light, the way people saw me and the way people treated me started to change. And sometimes I became invincible. Or invisible, sorry. Invincible. Well,
there's a good Freudian slip.
Yeah, exactly, right? Yeah, I became invisible, and that suited me. When I first came to the US, when I started to become a speaker and an author on an international sense, I used to freak out coming through border control. The reason for that is I have like tattoos in the most, revealing places, and I've always kind of been treated a little bit differently when I come through border control because I've got tattoos. They're like, this guy must party. So my first trip to the US, I was taken into that little room where they search all your things in your body. And it literally it really tarnished my experience of coming to the US. So every time I come, I literally still get this anxiety of, oh my goodness, they're going to take me in that room and just belittle me again.
I got this, and Kyle, without the tattoos, I got this going to Canada. And I still have that fear when I go to the border of what's going to happen, because they intimidate you. They scare you deliberately. And when this happened, I'm like, I don't need to come in. I can go home now.
Yeah, it's funny. When I went to Canada, I had the complete opposite experience. The guy was like, what do you do? I'm like, an author. And he was like, cool. And that was it, But when I was coming through New York, this guy was like, do you have drugs? And like, really like coming for me. And so I started calling Michael, the archangel, to protect me. And this one time I was super nervous about coming into Philadelphia. And I asked Archangel Michael to make me invisible. And when it came to my turn, I was like traveling on a pretty quiet flight. I was in business class, and so I got to the front of the line. And I went to the guy, and you know how you have to do your handprints in the US? Yep. You don't do that here. And so I'm doing it, and the guy's like, can you do it again, sir? Can you do it again, sir? Can you do it again? And he's like, weird. It's not picking up a human being. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, it's like your hand doesn't exist. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to trust that it's okay. I've seen you've come in a few times. And then he gave me my passport and off I went. But I thought it was really weird. And it was really a big lesson. Like, I'm never going to be asked to be made invisible again, because that makes matters even more challenging.
So going from there, and then we'll get into your deck here. Do we each have a guardian angel, and how can we connect with our guardian angel?
I believe we all have a guardian angel, and the angel's not only from this lifetime, but every incarnation. So I had this vision not too long ago that before we're in this body, and I loved when I learned that the human being is made up of the particles of former stars.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that we are a star in its next incarnation. So cool. Or its next form. So I had this vision that I used to be one with the cosmos. I've always had this deep connection to the stars. And I remember feeling like I was moving through the night sky, and my energy was so effervescent and magnetic, and towards me was another star, and it was drawing towards me like a magnet, and that other star was my guardian angel in their previous form, and they were just pure intelligence of the universe. And then for whatever reason, when we're given the opportunity to incarnate as human, that same magnetic pull that drew the stars together draws your angel with you wherever you go. And the feeling of being drawn to the angels and feeling like I want to connect with them isn't actually curiosity or interest. It's deep soul remembrance. We're remembering on a soul level that before we were embodied, we were connected to this intelligent force of love. So yes, we all have a guardian angel. That's how we were connected. And they've been with us through every incarnation, creating essentially the story of our lives and our experiences and all of the lessons and karma that we've experienced in our life. And how to connect with them, that first prayer I shared earlier on, thank you, angels, for reminding me of your presence, is like a great way. But also getting into the state of being willing to listen. And there's three prayers I use on a daily. So it's thank you, angels, for reminding me of your presence. Second one is thank you, angels, for revealing to me what I need to know. And that's based on me working with angel cards. I'll maybe talk about that when we get there. The angels tell us what we need, not what we want. And then the last one is thank you, angels, for showing me how I can live a life of service in a way that also serves me, my joy, and my happiness. And you can also add in, and my bank account, if you so wish. So that's my three prayers. For a long time, I used to just say, thank you, angels, for showing me how I can live a life of service. Dear God, use me. And I felt used. And I felt like I was in service, but I was not being served in that process. So I had to upgrade. When you align with service, there's a sustenance that's brought to your life, you know. And that's the one thing that I think has really allowed my own spiritual practice to develop and evolve, is the fact that this has never been just for me. You know, there's always been a dedication, a commitment, a mission, a vision. And I think when we align with that service or the highest good of all, you create a radical shift in your life. They're not physical beings, they're vibrational beings. Feeling is so much more important. Like, I genuinely know that. Seeing angels is a skill that would take, I think, takes most people 5 to 10 years to develop.
Yeah.
Because it's about being able to see yourself first of all, and then, or unless you've had some sort of traumatic experience, then sometimes you can just see them instantly. Like, that's what I've found. But seeing angels is not important on a physical level, but you can invite them into your meditation, and that's where you're going to have the best experience. So I would say, asking an angel to reveal its divine presence to you in meditation. Thank you, guardian angel, for allowing me to see your divine presence in this meditation today. That's an amazing way to get connected to your angel.
Angels were, and some ascended masters definitely were in my life, in my early years. You know, I saw all kinds of beings around me, and I had a very strong connection with nature at that time. And I would get myself into trouble because I would see things and know things about people that probably I wasn't supposed to see or know, so I would get in trouble for that. And then that shut down when I was about 11 or 12 and opened up in my first Saturn return. And I was just doing a routine preparation for an experiment. And this was after I had finished graduate school, and so I was now employed in a medical lab. And I had my out of laboratory experience. That's the best way I describe it. I found myself in a stone room that was round, and the floor was dirt. And I remember thinking, this doesn't work with sterile technique. What am I doing here? And then there wasn't a ceiling, so this incredible white gold light just streamed in, and then an angel appeared in that light, and it was totally like a big angel, and all in like the way you would expect an angel to look, from a painting. Beautiful ruby and gold robes, and I knew it was Gabriel because Gabriel comes with a trumpet, at least in the story. And the angel just spoke to me telepathically and said, "Belinda, we're calling you. You have new work to do." And I was like, where am I? What am I doing here? And what is this new work about? And Gabriel said, "We need you to help human beings to remember that they are God's divine children. They have forgotten that." And I said to the angel, I said, "Well, that sounds like I need a degree in psychology, and I don't have that. So maybe, you've called the wrong person." And Gabriel said, "No, we haven't made a mistake. And, you'll understand as time goes by, and we'll be back." And so I thought I was in that stone room for like a whole day. It just seemed like I was there for a very long time. But I snapped back into the lab. I was still holding the syringe and my sample. I looked at my watch, and not even 1 minute had gone by. And my whole body was just shaking and vibrating. And I was like, what just happened to me? And that was, over 25 years ago. So now it makes a bit more sense. They communicate with me in the same way. It comes through as a knowing. Especially when I'm writing, it just comes through as a very clear knowing. And then when I write, we go back and forth until the vibration is just right. And it's kind of hard to describe because it's all about feeling. I will receive, let's say, a paragraph, and I will write it down. And then I will come back to those sentences, and we work with it like, molding clay until every word is clear and the sentence is clear, and it all comes together so that it's digestible. So it's it sometimes in their writing, people have told me that have read Lessons from the 12 Archangels but it's so simple. And it's like, well, that's how the angels want it to be. They want it to be as clear as that a child can understand it. They're not into intellectual, trying to impress you that with complication. That's not where they're at. They want it to be simple so that it goes in, so that you feel it, you receive it, you welcome it, and you want more of it. So I would say, that clairgnosis of knowing and clairsentience of feeling the truth, that's the way that I communicate with them. But the message that they have is that, hey, angels love to communicate in action. Like they want to help us see the results of their help and support in our everyday life. So they say, don't get hung up on, do you hear us? Do you see us? Are you having a dialogue with us? Forget all that. Just say, angels, thank you for helping me get to my meeting on time, or thank you for helping me get through this traffic jam to get to my meeting, or thank you for helping my headache go away, or whatever it is that we need. And I gave you some very, kind of mundane things, but they do help with the mundane. One time I was driving and I was exhausted. I'd been, working for too long, which, we healers tend to do. And I was just exhausted, right? And I had to get from, this is when I lived in Maine, and I needed to drive from Connecticut back home. And I saw angels' hands on my hands driving the car.
Wow.
So, and I totally felt them drive me home. Now, I'd seen angels on the roof of my car and, helping in traffic, but this was the first time I had an angel drive me home.
What kind of a tip do you give them for that?
Love and gratitude. That's what angels appreciate. They're always helping us. But what helps is that when we ask, we're taking that ego that sits over in the left part of our brain and we're bringing it home to our center, to our heart. And that helps the ego to surrender that it has to be kind of God omnipotent all on its own. And it teaches the ego that it's okay to ask for help. Because that's where we can get so shut down, is believing it's not okay to ask for help. It means we're not independent enough, or we're not intelligent enough, or we're just not. Maybe we were brought up with religious or cultural beliefs that say to ask for help is shows we're weak, or we're just unworthy. We're just supposed to be unworthy, and we're not allowed to ask for help. So that's where asking, it helps that ego to recognize, hey, I've got angels. They've got my back. They're working with me. They're helping me. Look at how things are changing. Because angels, as you know, Michael, they make us feel like we've got a family that really understands us and gets us, so that little child that lives within us doesn't have to go back into that old abandonment place, that old sad place. So that we can see, hear, and know and feel the truth of a highest vibration. Mm-hmm. But the angels love to work with the color fuchsia. A lot of people may think, hey, but the third eye isn't that indigo. Well, it does have indigo in it, but the angels want to help us so that we see into the realm of heaven, so that we can see intuitively, we can see the truth, and we can see our helpers, and we can really feel and know the love. And that's why they love to work with fuchsia, which is also Kuan Yin's color, to help again bring in that feminine. And it just helps to activate that intuitive, creative, spiritual hemisphere of the brain. So by just visualizing that fuchsia lamp, it's going to get that third eye to open to see into a very beautiful realm.
Woohoo!
So surrendering to the will of God is an act or an action that the ego, the personality, can do to really help get out of the way. Because again, God created us, and God created the ego to believe in separation, to believe in fear. So fear is the vibration of where, love feels like it's been lost. Mm-hmm. And fear creates suffering and torture and hatred and all of those things that we get to experience here on Schoolroom Earth. So when we surrender, what that does is it gently lifts the vibration of ego, and it brings it into alignment or balance with the heart, which just means the soul. It's just another word for that spirit part of us. And it's so incredibly magical and deeply spiritual to say, I surrender. Because we get to have free will here to a certain extent. But our free will can really get us into trouble, and it can keep us kind of like in the same homework lessons over and over and over and over. Like how many times do you have to have a broken heart to realize, oh, maybe I'm going after the wrong type of person. Whereas if we surrender our will and we let our soul bring us in our true love, then it's like, well, isn't that a bit easier? You still have to learn and grow. So when we're beating our heads against the wall, this is a time to say, I surrender to the will of God, which is exactly the same as I surrender to my higher will. It means the same thing. Well, that's a very smart thing for us to do, right? So the first thing we do is we surrender the will of our ego, which is actually causing us to suffer because it's bottled up in fear. It's caught up in separation. That ego has forgotten, hey, I'm a divine child of God. I just need to say, hey, parents, help me out. So when we then surrender to our highest joy and good, it's like it really lifts us up. It lifts up the vibration of our minds, because that's what we create with. And it says, you know what? I'm ready to co-create like heaven on earth kind of creation. Believe in your power. Believe that, yes, you do have the power to change your experiences, to change your lives for the better. These changes often happen step by step, but these times the clock is ticking faster than ever. You are moving through your lessons faster than ever. Well, that is our first message to you. And number 2 is, we're here. We're here to help you. We're here to support you. Call on your helpers in heaven. Call on us, experience us, feel us, and let yourselves experience greater joy, greater happiness, because this is your birthright. And by your doing this, you help change the negative story for all concerned into something far, far better. And we are grateful. We are so grateful to serve with you, to serve you, to help you experience who you are, to experience who you are.
For me, with that miracle that happened to me, I just noticed a different voice, and I knew that I was at an opportunity where I could start listening to that voice or continue to deny it. And the voice was really unique and special because it was inviting me to do really impractical things that were positive.
Tell me more.
Right? So it was like, I remember the first decision that I made that was really like, wow, this is mind blowing to me, was that I wanted to learn more about angels because I had the miracle already, but I was a licensed psychotherapist at the time. So it was these two worlds that at the time seemed opposing opposites, because people that believe in angels and miracles are also sometimes at the time in my
you can put them in the DSM.
yeah, they're diagnosable. So I was walking in both those worlds, and I had a choice, like, am I going to continue to pursue this regular path, be a psychotherapist, and everything is just about mental health counseling, or am I going to essentially start believing in miracles? And it took me a while, to be honest, to come forward or to be honest about the miracle that I had witnessed. But it was really the change on the inside of me that made me want to come out of the angel closet and start, like, if I felt or sensed angels in the room with my clients, eventually I started saying it out loud and said, hey, I feel like there's some presence here. And I would dance around it. And officially, I would just be like, hey, you want to hear some weird stuff? And are you open to this kind of thing? And then always they say yes, because they're struggling. Maybe they haven't stopped crying in a year or have been deeply depressed. Like, yeah, I'll hear a message from a quote unquote angel. And so I started with it very awkwardly, and I started owning it in my practice and sharing the message and the healing, because I had such my own personal radical healing, and it has nothing to do almost with what I learned in school. We don't have to be officially religious or ascribe to a specific religion. So I feel like the angel world, in a sense, for years had been hijacked by the popular religions that were talking about angels. Like Christianity or Judaism, and even the Muslims like include a little angels. But my perspective from angels is that they are non-denominational. They are for all people. It doesn't matter whether you believe or not, because I was not a believer at the time. I was living the opposite of a religious life. And to be honest, I'm still non-religious. I celebrate life. I from work with spirit, I have become more, what's the word, celebratory of nature, more connected to nature. I'm in more communion, I guess, with life. Mm-hmm. But that did not come from a religious perspective. And just because I had this miracle did not dictate that now I had to be call myself at least a religious person, if you know what I mean. There's a difference. Because I was not a religious person, I cut myself off from thinking that I had helpers too, because, well, I don't go to church on Sundays and I don't necessarily believe the way that I know other Christians believe. And, I cut myself off, and I think that's the danger, or that's the sadness for me. And that's actually part of why I do what I do, is deconstructing how we grew up to think like only these people get this kind of support. And from my perspective, you do not have to convert. You have support no matter who you are, no matter what part of your path you're on. And if you choose to convert to whatever religion, doesn't matter, that's fine too. But it's not required. You can, like in my case, be authentic. I have a potty mouth. I still have a potty mouth. I'm not religious, but my heart has exploded and expanded. And I feel like that's what this thing does. It just opens your heart to be inclusive to other people, mm-hmm. but most importantly, inclusive to those parts of yourself that you feel ashamed of. The dancing lights, from my perspective today, it could change a few years from now, are to help us remember good medicine for the soul. And my perspective is that it's not just a perspective. It's just like what I understand at this stage in my communion with angels is that we started off as incredibly luminous beings mm-hmm. that came into these meat suits. And then we have this anesthesia, mental anesthesia or hypnosis that makes us forget. And so to me, these lights are here like medicine. If we follow these little light, it's almost like little fruits, little berries. If we consume them and enjoy them and accept them, that it helps us to not necessarily reawaken to become a divine human, but it gives us medicine to not just survive this 3D learning, this game that we're in, but helps us to thrive. And so the dancing lights are here, like I said, for every single person. I feel like it's non-denominational. It's not based on religion. Some people call them angels. Some people call them other things in other cultures. But throughout history and time, we know that there have always been accounts of benevolent beings that are here to support us, to be whatever you want to call them, messengers mm-hmm. or healers. For me, I didn't feel like they were messengers in the beginning. They literally helped me heal my past as much as was possible at the time to help me move forward. Now, it's still a work in progress. It's always a work in progress. But these dancing lights, you can watch the dancing lights, or you can follow the really crusty, fear-based stuff that's getting thrown at us right now. Listening to those impractical moments where, okay, people are dying. You want me to go run what's that have to do with anything?
Bingo.
It's an impractical advice. And sometimes that's what the light and the dancing lights, it's like taking us off in this other direction that has nothing to do with the trauma at hand and or the obligation at hand. And in my case, it was, they urged me to go learn more about angels. So I did that in the form of taking myself to Hawaii on a week-long vacation to go learn about intuitive angel healing. I know. And so I talked to my husband, and he's like, oh, heck no, we don't have money for that, because our house was going into foreclosure. We didn't have money. We were in serious credit card debt. And But I was like, well, all the trail is leading me to go to Hawaii and learn more about angels. And he's like, well, are you going to be an angel healer? And I was like, oh, heck no. Gosh, I'm a therapist. Like, what am I going to do with being an angel healer? Never anything ever. But I just feel drawn to it, and it just feels like the right thing. And sorry, I can't bring you guys. So I took myself on, and I had never traveled alone to take myself on this level of investment with no cash. No, sorry, my daughter was like 4 years old. I never left my daughter. Like, all of the things that were the roles that I played were confronted by this one decision. And it's just because I wanted to party with angels. It wasn't because I wanted to make a new career. It was so impractical. And here it is. Here's what I'm doing. It's about 10 years later. And it's like we never know like why we're being asked to do something, but it's important sometimes to listen at least once to that voice. You just try it and then see if it works out, because sometimes it doesn't. To be honest, sometimes it's like, okay, well, that didn't officially work out, but usually it does work out in one way or the other. But I feel like people who are particularly need an extra sense of safety in the world need to be invited to step out of the box and develop their deeper resources. So I don't have a hard, fast answer. I can say if you have this keep on coming back to you, it's definitely worth a shot. If it's a fleeting thought and doesn't come back to you, just maybe write it down. And if it keeps on coming back, or maybe you get signs around it. But for me, there was a few signs around that first big leap. These days, though, to be honest, Michael, now my intuition, what spirit shows me is like, just follow your joy and we will catch your back. There are certain things that we can do to make ourselves more loud and attractive to our spirit helpers. And there's angels and there's other allies like our ancestors and really nature and all of these things. And so I feel like now more than ever, it's important to have a dedicated practice. And so before maybe you catch people, catch spirit's attention and they give you a moment of grace. And when we have this moment of grace, that it should be our priority to be dedicated and stay in that vein. And even if you don't believe in an invisible posse on any level, that today's your day where you start believing it's a possibility and start inviting them in. When it comes to spirit, you ugly cry, you show your weakness, you show your broken bones. And if you're a server or a helper or someone who is leading like yourself, leading communities, you best give yourself space to be broken in front of something or someone, and spirit will help you with that. Like we can be all of ourselves. So like you're broken, again, authenticity, joy, share your joy, share your authenticity, share your pain, but don't hide. There's no limits is what I'm saying when it comes to our experience right now and what's going to be celebrated from spirit. The fact that they allow me to be my fuller self, let me have a potty mouth, let me I've never felt a demand from spirit that I had to be anything other than I was in my full humanness. And it was, it took some retraining in my brain about like what I've heard versus the reality. And I feel that there's a huge fragmentation in the spiritual community, and we're seeing the gargoyles that we have created for each other by believing we had to be just spiritual, because then it means we have to be perfect or have our shit together or whatever. And at this stage of where we're at, it's about authenticity from the bones. Be broken, be honest, and have the audacity to share that brokenness with each other. There's a variety of signs that will, especially in the beginning, show you you're in contact with the divine. But none of them matter unless you solve one thing, which is to open your mind to the possibility that they are real. You don't have to believe in it, but you do have to learn to trust your experience and all of those things that seem like coincidence. Oh, that angel song happened to turn on the radio, or wow, I just felt something like I just felt like that brush up and down my arm just when I was calling in Archangel Michael. Those little things are more important than the actual way that they communicate with you. If you do not have your own self-doubt dialed down a little bit and get it out of the way, you'll miss everything. We wake up in the morning and we ask, hey, how can I serve? What's my task just for today? And then, because we're all experiencing life as we are right now, what can I do to support my own life, support my own love, support my family, support my community, support the world? So it's not just about this pie in the sky, like I'm here being of service. We need to honor the fact that we need to open our hearts and our minds to what we need for ourselves first as well. So it's that first question, what can I do for myself? How can I serve the collective, my family? And to me, that's my North Star, because many times over this last year, I had no clue. And that was when it all got stripped down and I didn't even have the strength to do an invocation anymore. I'm just like laid out like, oh my God, could things get more weird? How can I serve? Just give me one step, is letting go of your grudges about your life as it is today, because we have a potential to be rebirthed fully. If you really look at some of the energies in astrology and Toltec wisdom and whatever, there is a whole new thing being born. So we can let go of our old stories, but we have to acknowledge them and be willing to say, okay, let's just reset that, because maybe that was my conditioning. Maybe that wasn't just me. And also inviting in a higher vision for your life, as opposed to micromanaging the future vision for your life. You invite in what else is possible? What else is possible for me? What else is possible for our planet, for our country? And I think it's just a lot of release work, essentially releasing the past and releasing your grips on your future. We're thinking for everyone right now, not just us in the next 50 years, but we're setting the tone for what may be accomplished in the next 100 years, 200 years. So if you knew that your job mentally was that important, how would you rearrange yourself?
Automatic writing is perhaps the most cutting-edge tool for connecting with the other side, which is why we've written the definitive guide called the Automatic Writing Experience. To find out more, simply visit automaticwriting.com. It's my favorite way to help you to shine bright. Woohoo!